And Hutton, I'm shocked with the news on Tom Brady.
Me too.
Quite frankly. With everything that happened with his divorce and everything this year, I'm thinking there is no way that he is going to come back and play 1 year and not go for another Lombardi trophy with someone else after this year. I buy it. I believe that he's retired. I believe everything he says in the video. I also can't help but think I wish this would have been done in April, let's say. You give yourself a little bit more time to get through everything in the offseason. This kind of is what took place a year ago, right around the same time. And then a month later, things start gearing back up and you get the itch again. So you can never say never with these things, as we learned a year ago. I buy it for now, but I also feel like a couple of months to sit back and make this decision, I would have bought it even more.
NFL players and coaches, they say don't retire in a month that begins with a J. January is too close following the season. June, July, way too close to training camp. And back-to-back times we've seen Brady now step away from the game on February 1st. Here is the post that he made, and I'm with you, Chad. We can let our listeners and audience decide for themselves. If you haven't heard it, here's Brady announcing his retirement from the game.
Good morning, guys. I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. I know the process was a pretty big deal last time, so when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. Like, you only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year. So really thank you guys so much, to every single one of you, for supporting me, my family, my friends, my teammates, my competitors. I could go on forever. There's too many. Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all.
There's Brady earlier today on February 1st, a year to the day from announcing his first retirement. And he said he woke up this morning and wanted to do it this way, meaning this has been on his mind to do it again, just like it was last year at this time.
Yeah, and it's look, I mean, just looking back on his career, it's the greatest career in the history of the game, and one of the greatest careers in the history of any sport.
And Peter Schrager put out earlier that just now, he says, per sources close to Brady, the video posted this morning was filmed prior to this morning. He kept this one awfully quiet, and he wanted to post it on February 1st. Again, that's all pre-planned and scheduled. Keep in mind, Giselle, by the way, commented on his post, wishing you only wonderful things in this new chapter of your life, with the prayer hands emoji on that in her response. No doubt the off-the-field relationship and stress played a major factor on him and the toll that it took on the field. We've chronicled it. He wasn't always crisp and sharp, but we've mentioned the pass attempts and pass completions this season were more than any quarterback in the league, by nearly 30 in each category, ahead of Justin Herbert. And despite the injuries, despite him not playing his best and all of the things he was dealing with off the field, Chad, he has a lot left. That was why I'm so surprised, because the sentiment was, well, he's coming back to the game after a 40-day hiatus, and he's going to go until the game retires him. And this is now back-to-back years where he has stepped away from football. Football is going to continue to embrace Tom Brady. He's got the contract with Fox Sports, NFL on Fox, where he'll begin that as early as next season in the booth with Burkhardt. But this is a surprising announcement based on, I'm with you, based on what other teams could offer, which is what could be an 8th Super Bowl ring.
David in our YouTube chat says, big difference from last year's announcement to now was he had a year left on his deal in Tampa Bay. Now he's a free agent. I can understand him not wanting to go through that process again.
Yeah.
Finding another team, ingratiating himself in that locker room, leading that locker room, putting his system with the system of the new coach, doing all those things that it takes to lead another team to the Super Bowl. I can understand all of that. I just figured when he made this decision after announcing his retirement that led to everything in his personal life this past year, it wasn't going to be for 1 year, and it certainly was not going to end with a blowout loss to the Dallas Cowboys at home to end Tom Brady's career. So, again, that's why I'm still shocked. I love this if he's saying, I'm going to go be with my kids now, and I'm going to take that competitive spirit and everything I've done on the football field and carry that over into my new life as a broadcaster and with my family. I think all that is terrific. But I also look at Tom Brady, and this is going to be a very difficult transition. It's a difficult transition for anyone. But when you've put the amount of years Tom Brady has, when Tom Brady was drafted, I was thinking about this today. I was a senior in high school. I mean, just think about life watching the NFL without Tom Brady. For so many people there, whatever your age is, think back to when Tom Brady was drafted in 2000, in the spring of 2000 by the New England Patriots. It's going to be weird for us to adjust to life without Tom Brady in the NFL. Think of what it's going to be like for Tom Brady to adjust to this life not being a competitor at the highest level of his sport in the NFL. This is going to be an odd transition for him. Curious to see him as a broadcaster. I have no idea what to expect. He's good in an interview setting. I have no idea how he's going to be calling games. I have no idea how he's going to be diagnosing things that's happening, explaining it, being critical at times if he needs to be. No idea how that's going to go. That's now going to be the next big speculation. Tom Brady, the broadcaster for Fox Sports. But my first reaction when I saw this news today, Hutton, was complete shock.
He is, or was, now it seems weird to say was more likely to take his team to a championship game than most quarterbacks are to complete a certain amount of passes in a game. 70% for his career. And his career, he's got a Hall of Fame career in two different versions of his career, from 2001 to 2011, and then from 2012 to going through 2021, now you add in 2022. The numbers are virtually the same if you split everything down the middle. And he has the most touchdowns, the most yards, the most wins, the most MVPs, and more Super Bowls than any quarterback in history. And he has more Super Bowls than any single NFL franchise. That's another thing to put in perspective. Tom, this is not just the end of what was the quarterback era, where the quarterback officially took over with the rules changes and where we saw the passing game really come into fold. Chad, this is an era in and of itself, the Brady brand. We'll talk with Clay about the overall brand, and he was on Fox News early this morning discussing Jordan's brand. Yeah. And we'll compare where Brady's taking his to where Jordan has, where he's making $10,000 per minute over the last 5 years. I
was watching this morning First Take with Stephen A. Smith, and they had Mike and the Mad Dog reunited on it.
Yeah.
And I was laughing because Mike Francesa said Tom Brady's not the greatest quarterback of all time. Joe Montana is. And he points to Joe Montana was always good in his Super Bowls. And Tom Brady wasn't always great in every Super Bowl he was in. And then he said, and Peyton Manning's the best regular season quarterback of all time with his consistency. It was an interesting opinion for sure, but it doesn't matter because the dude played 23 years and played at such a high level for that long. So you can try to nitpick and say, well, this guy was more consistent in the biggest game. I feel like this guy's regular season reputation for always putting up big numbers and being great may have been better. You can pick out this and that and say, well, without that team, whatever.
Yeah.
The he had the greatest, this is the way I describe Tom Brady. He had the greatest career in NFL history. There's no close second place. Can Patrick Mahomes get there? Maybe. He's the one right now that has a chance.
Good.
But he's got to play 20-plus years to do that, which is highly unlikely for Patrick Mahomes. So we can sit and debate and discuss about, well, this guy was better at this or this guy had a better track record. It doesn't matter when you really look at the totality of what Tom Brady accomplished over 23 years in the NFL.
What does his retirement mean for the quarterback market? It's a similar conversation to what we were discussing last year. But this year, with him and the salary cap structure being what it is in Tampa, everyone, instead of having him pinned to return to Tampa, had him going elsewhere. The odds prior to this morning were he was headed to San Francisco, according to the Vegas odds, at plus 125. That was followed by the Las Vegas Raiders, which we have chronicled over the last month or so. Tampa Bay, a return there, followed by the Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots, Tennessee Titans, and New York Jets. All of these teams have quarterback needs in some way. Either they're sticking with their guy for another year, but they would lean towards the veteran for a final rendezvous to see what he could do with that roster and who he would be bringing with him. Or in the case of San Francisco, you may not have either guy that you had planned on having at this time last week. Trey Lance coming back off injury. Now Brock Purdy, who is a 6 to 9 month time frame, depending on if he has surgery or not for Tommy John surgery on his elbow. We know what's going on in Vegas. This affects the draft, but more importantly, the craziness that's about to ensue with the quarterback movement yet again via trade and via free agency.
Yeah, you're taking a huge piece off the board of all of this offseason movement now, because when we were looking at where the musical chairs game of open quarterback jobs and big names out there, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers are the two biggest ones playing that game of musical chairs. And now that Tom Brady's out, that eliminates one big landing spot for someone. So I think it makes life a lot better for Aaron Rodgers of the options that could be out there. But now it's going to be where Green Bay decides to deal him also, because they can work with him on it, but he does not have a no trade clause where he can say, I'm not going here or there. It's ultimately up to the Packers.
And the price tag, too, on what they're going to need in return for him. It's either way, if he's back, they're going to have to restructure him again. He counts like $60 million against their cap.
One thing that came to mind when this happened, too, there's no way that Aaron Rodgers retires now, because he will play second fiddle 5 years from now in the Hall of Fame induction. And that's not going to happen. He wants to get his top billing as a first ballot Hall of Famer.
They would have like 2 separate nights. It's like 2 separate nights of WrestleMania.
Yeah, you might as well wait at least a year where you're going to be the top dog of the big Hall of Fame induction 5 years from now, because it will be Brady 1, Rodgers 2 if he announces his retirement now, 5 years from now. They're both first ballot Hall of Famers, but Brady 1, Rodgers 2.
How about the conflicting reports with what took place in the Denver Broncos head coaching search? I've compared it, Chad, to a college football coaching search with how ownership treated this, where they're flying to Ann Arbor, then they're going and doubling back to DeMeco Ryans. They come back around to Sean Payton. They've got to get one of these guys, and they were turned away at least twice, depending on who you're listening to. Ian Rappaport tweets out, the Broncos spent today, this was yesterday, trying to hire DeMeco Ryans again before he recommitted to the Texans, sources say. When he agreed to terms with the Texans, they moved and finalized Sean Payton. And literally, if you look at the timestamps, here's Schefter with the exact opposite. Timing of today's 2 hires, completely coincidental. Broncos were zeroed in on Sean Payton and didn't make any contact this week with DeMeco Ryans or his agent. Denver was focused on Payton and Houston on Ryans. One of those is coming from the agent. Schefter is alluding to that based on the contact with Ryans or his agent. And Rappaport is saying, hey, they doubled back around, and Houston gave basically DeMeco Ryans the Kyle Shanahan deal, the 6-year contract.
Well, my initial thought was Adam Schefter once covered the Broncos exclusively, so all of his contacts are coming from the Broncos organization. Ian Rappaport is getting info from Ryans and his camp, and that's where you get the 2 completely different stories about how things went down. So one report gets out there, they look bad, so let's get with our guy Adam Schefter to get out our side of the story. That's where you have the different different accounts of what happened. For the Broncos' purposes, boy, I sure do like Adam Schefter's retelling of it a lot better than what Ian Rappaport is saying. It looks sloppy. They ended up getting a good coach and not at a terrible price based on what was rumored they were going to have to pay in a trade to get Sean Payton. But the whole conclusion of the thing looks terribly sloppy on the Broncos' end based on the trip to see Harbaugh, the Ian Rappaport report about Ryans on the final day. If all of that's true, that's a crazy way to get to a good coach. But I guess all's well that ends well because they end up with Sean Payton.
They end up with Sean Payton. They've given up and they've traded away now, plus some other picks. 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks in exchange for Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. And keep in mind, Schefter is tied in as well with Michigan and Jim Harbaugh in all of this. He had great connections with the 2 franchises. And you have a ownership that's going through this process for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And that's also part of the circular and cyclical nature of what this search became.